Hey kiddos, so this assignment is going to be on line plots and interpreting things from those line plots. I believe there's 6 examples I'm going to go over with you, and I've also attached several other videos to the Google Doc in case you need those as well. And you will have one Mastery Connect assignment at the end. All right, so this problem actually has 2 questions with it. The first one's asking about a total, and the other one is asking about a difference. So we know when they're asking a question about a total amount, we know that we're going to be adding these up. When we're asking for a difference, we know that we're going to be subtracting. So make sure you look for those keywords. All right, so number 1 is asking for the total liters in all 12 containers. So that means every single one of these little X's we have to take an account for. And I want you to make sure you remember, for example, right here, this one X is representing just 1/8. This one has 2/8, 2/8, and 2/8, which obviously together that would make 2, 4, 6. So you can combine them like that, but you just have to make sure you take into account every single one. For example, right here, there's only 1 5/8, 1 6/8, but there are 4 7/8. So you can either write 7/8 4 times, or you can say 7, 14, 21, 28, and know that that would be 28 over 8. And then these are 2 whole numbers, so that's representing 2. Okay, I went ahead and worked this problem out, but I'm going to walk you through what I did. First things, number 1 right here said how many total liters. So I wrote down every single one. Now, I also remember we can combine some things. So, for instance, there's only 1/8, so this is the 1/8 that I wrote down, but there's 3 2/8, so that's where the 6/8 came from. All right, then you had 5/8 here, 6/8 here, then you had 4 7/8, so that's where the 28 over 8 came from in my list of numbers. Then you had 2 whole numbers, so that's where that is. All right, when I added all of these up, because they happen to have the common denominator already, so all I did was add my numerators up, and I got 46 over 8. I brought down my whole number 2. I knew I had to change this to get a final answer. I had to get this into, instead of improper, I had to get it to a mixed number. So that's what this is over here in the box. Just changing it to from improper to a mixed number. So when I did this, though, I could obviously see 7 and 6/8 is not one of these choices down here. So that told me I should go back and look and see if I could reduce or simplify this fraction, which I could. I could divide out 2 from each one. So that gave me 7 3/4. And that is the correct answer for the total amount. All right, number 2, or the second problem on this, was asking for the difference between the most and the least. So all you had to do was say 1 minus 1/8. I know I could change 1 whole to 8 over 8 since I want it to be compatible with the other fraction. And then 8 over 8 minus 1 over 8 is going to leave you with 7/8. Okay, on this problem, she gives you some information, and then she asks you a question about it. So you have 8 containers. Right now, they're filled with different amounts of juice, but on part A, they ask what would happen if you redistributed the juice so that there were equal amounts in each container. So I'm going to walk you through how I worked this one out. First thing I did was I recognized that there were 3 1/4, so that's where the 3/4 comes from. There are 3 1/2, so also 3 halves. There's 1 3/4, and there's 1 whole. All right, I also recognize that there were different denominators, and if I want to add these, I know they have to have the same. So I changed 3 halves to 6/4 because I multiplied 2 times 2 to get 4, 3 times 2 to get 6. Now they all have the same denominator, so I just added them up. 3 plus 6 is 9, 9 plus 3 is 12. 12 over 4, I know I would not leave it improper, and when I go to divide it out, I noticed that it represents a whole number anyways, so it represents 3. Then I bring down my other whole number of 1. So that tells me that there is a total of 4 cups of juice that I've got to distribute between 8 containers. So I found the total 4, but that wasn't what they were asking me for. They wanted to know what if they distributed it equally into 8 containers. So we had to take the 4 and divide it by the 8. And then that showed me that all I could do was simplify this fraction, and it became 1/2. So 1/2 is your answer on this one. Okay, on this one, we still have the same scenario up at the top, But this time there's a part B, and all they're asking us is for the difference between the most juice and the least juice. So I had 1 whole being the greater amount or the most amount, and 1/4 being the least. Because remember, if they're just asking you the difference between the numbers, you're not using all 3 of these. They're not asking for any kind of total. They just want to know this least amount. So I used 1 for the most, 1/4 for the least. So 1 minus 1/4. I know I can change 1 whole to represent 4/4 so that it has a common denominator. And then I just subtract the 2. So 4/4 minus 1/4 leaves me with 3/4 for my answer. All right, this question maybe looked a little more difficult than it was. All you're doing on this question is trying to find equivalent fractions. So you just had to look through what they gave you and figure out which 2 could mean the same thing. We know that 1/3 is equivalent to 2/6. So that's why Alfredo's restaurant and Sal's Pizza and Pasta are your answers, because they wanted to know which ones would have the same values. Okay, on this problem, I kind of have a lot written, but I'm going to go step by step and show you how I came to this answer. So the first thing is that we see that they're asking for a total length. I did want to do this problem specifically because I wanted you to see that, to pay close attention to the fact that all these numbers, all these fractions do not have common denominators. So we have to look out for those uncommon denominators and know that we're going to have to change them. So first off, in the blue here, I want you to see where these numbers came from. So if we look, there are 2 1/8, so that's 2/8. 2 1/4, so 2/4. There are 4 1/2, so 4/2. There are 2 5/8, so 10/8. There are 3 3/4, so 9/4. And then there's 1 7/8, and then 1 1/2. So that's where the blue numbers came from. Just pulling the information and counting all of these little X's, accounting for them before we write our numbers down. All right, now the next thing was we said they have uncommon denominators. So I had to look and see, okay, I have 8, 4, and 2 as these denominators. So I looked to see, can 2 and 4 both go into 8? Yes, they can. So that's going to be our common denominator. So the ones that already have 8, I left alone. The ones that did not, I changed to have a common denominator. So on this one, if I had to go from 4 to 8, I knew I was multiplying by 2. So that became 4/8. On this one, from 2 to 8, had to multiply times 4. So 4 times 4 gave me 16. 10/8 stays the same. On this one, again, 4 times 2 is 8. So 9 times 2 is 18. And 7/8 stays the same, and I'll leave my 1 whole. All right, the next step after I found common denominators for everything, now all I had to do was add my numerators up, all of these together, and they gave you 57/8. Now that I have 57/8, I can see that that's improper, and I know I need to change that. So that's what my little scratch work over here is, changing that to a mixed number, which was 7 1/8. And then I knew I had to add that to my 1 whole, and that gave me a final answer of 8 1/8. So 8 1/8 inches is your total there. All right, that is your last example that I'm going to go over on the video. So I would like you to watch this and watch the other videos that I attached, and then go complete your 1 Master Connect assignment, please. And then I'll see you on Google Meet later. Bye.